Hello, people. How's it going? It's a nice sunny day here in Minnesota. It's warm for a change. It's cool this morning, though. Very cool. I am going to. This is going to be always. I'm going to do YouTubes on Sunday. For a while, I'm just going to focus on Sunday YouTubes, hopefully more than just one. But that's the idea, in case anyone's wondering why I didn't do anything all week long. That's only because I'm planning it that way. I'm just reading this thing out constantly. This is going to be Penguin Classics. I'll get right to it. I discovered Penguin Classics in the 80s when I was in my late teens, early 20s. Yes, I'm old. I'm 59. I like them. I've always liked them. That's going to drive me nuts. It doesn't take much to drive me nuts, people. Believe me. I don't know. It's probably petty, but that's going to drive me crazy. Anyway, try to ignore it the best I can. Anyway, there we go. But I discovered Penguin Classics in Orlando when I was living there, Florida, of course. I've always liked them. I think they're great books. I think they cover a wide range of different subjects, topics, people. In this video, I'm going to talk about what are not the more known classics of literature. I mean, I'm not going to talk about, well, I can, but I won't, not right now. I mean, I do have this. I mean, the classics of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde of Robert Louis Stevenson. Probably one of my top 3 favorite authors is Robert Louis Stevenson. But, this is a Penguin Classic, one of the better ones. I like this version. I like this copy. That's not why this is about, but I'm just letting you know. And I'll probably talk about these. I'm bringing up these because these are what you would expect from a classic series of books. Like, Henry James, Robert Louis Stevenson, Charles Dickens, so on and so forth. But these people know. They know these. These are well-known authors, well-known stories, well-known everything. And yes, that sunlight is going to drive me crazy. But that's okay. I can't do anything about it. Must learn to live with the inconvenience of the sun. And make sure when they came and I can't let me slow down. I had to do it when they came home. That's okay. I'll try to get through this without being interrupted. Hopefully I won't be interrupted. I should have waited. But anyway. The first one I want to talk about is this one, Japanese literature. The Tales of Genji by Lady Murasaki. 973 AD to 1020 AD. Created one of the supreme classics of Japanese literature. Her diary offers an intimate and equally compelling picture of her life as a tutor and companion to the Emperor Toshi. Anyway, I love Japanese literature. I love Japanese history. I love Japanese writing. I basically love Japan, mainly because I lived there for 2 years. Okinawa, Japan. I lived there. I discovered I liked Japan when I was there, and I just started discovering their writings, their literature, their plays, everything else once I moved to Orlando. But I have read this. It was very good. I like this. I like anything Japanese related. They did have history before World War II. Anyway, it's just like Korea. They had history before and after their Korean War. But it's very thin. You can read it almost in a day or so. It's very good. Culturally, historically, literature-wise, it's a quick read. I like Japanese history. I always will. I always have. I find their thinking fascinating. I find their way they view life, fate, and karma interesting and fascinating. And hopefully they're not going to knock on the door. I know I should just redo this one, but I'm not going to. I started it. I'm not going to do it over. Things I worry about. But excellent. If you can find it. Some of them are hard to find. I think I accidentally found this one, but this is not the original copy I had when I first read it. But it's worth reading if you like Japanese history, Japanese culture, Japanese literature, Japanese anything. Read this. It's pretty good. It's a good book. It's short. It's cultural. And culture is fascinating. Culture is what classics matter. Because they are about culture. Culture and classics go together. Culture and classics build up each other. They're remembered because of it. I mean, what is a classic? A classic is something someone remembers, one way or another. they survive the test of time. Um, the next one I have started to read once. I'm not sure why I stopped. Probably because I lost the original copy and I found this one again. The Bagda, well, it's Welsh. Don't ask me to say that because I don't know. Is it focused? Can't tell. Let's see. Nothing illustrates the strange nature of these Welsh stories better than the vertically halved tree. The combination of fact and fantasy, of myth, history, and folklore in the Magadan.
Bribing you with some brownies. They didn't have M&Ms.
Okay, thank you.
Can you help us bring them back out of the car?
Sure.
Thanks.
Just a minute. I'll be right back. I don't know how to pause this, so you'll have to wait. I knew it. Crazy look. Tell they bribed me to help them. I'm sure nothing happened for the last minute or so, unless the ghost at this house is to the video when I wasn't around. Where was I? Oh yeah, the Magdagion. I'm not Welsh, so I don't know how to say it. I was born in England, but not there. Conjures up the magical enchanted world, which is nonetheless firmly rooted in the forest, hills, and valleys of ancient Wales. Yay! I have a book of history of Wales in somewhere. The 11 stories were composed orally over a span of centuries before being written down in the 13th century. Their makeup, is in their virtuosity and panache, one of the great Welsh epics. I bring it up because once again, literature and classics and civilization and history, and that light is going to drive me nuts. Mainly because it looks like someone painted it down with my face. This video is really going to come across as just chaotic. That's okay. That's called life. But I will read anything. After all, I have read the Quran in the Penguin Classic Quran, by the way. I will read anything. But this is, look, if you're interested in culture and when literature talks about culture, literature and culture, you cannot separate the two. I mean, it's impossible because one talks about the other, one builds up the other, one is about the other, one is a historical document about the other, even if it's written as a short story, even if it's written as a novel, it's still important. That's why I like doing these lesser known Penguin classics. I might do the one on the Roman and Greek writers I have. Those aren't lesser known, but some of them are. The Epic of Gilgamesh. Well, everybody knows that one. I mean, that's the story of Enkidu, miraculously preserved on a clay tablets deciphered only in the last century. The cycle of poems collected around the character of Gilgamesh, the great king of Uruk, tells of his long and arduous journey into the spring of youth, of his encounters with monsters and gods, and his friendship with Enkidu, the wild men from the hills. Also included this epic, the legend of the flood, which is rich with many details in the biblical story of Noah. As a mixture of pure adventure, morality, tragedy, the story of Gilgamesh and his futile search for immortality transcends the barriers of time, for it revolves around the fundamental forces of human problems common throughout the centuries. This is probably one of the very first Penguin classics I ever read. Was this one? I like it. I think it's a cool little book. Worth reading. Ancient history is always fascinating. Ancient cultures are always fascinating. A lot of my problems with modern education is they don't think this is worth it, because we have to put politics into everything. And granted, you can't separate a lot of times politics from literature or even this. But the stories are timeless. It's the stories that make them classics. I don't think you can have let me rephrase that. I think classical literature is about good stories and preserves them. That's what makes them classics, because they're preserved. Doesn't mean they're great for everyone, but they're great for the people who understand it and enjoy reading about them. But anyway, this one I picked. That's always because it's a classic. Well, it is a classic, but now if you know Moby Dick, this is where Herman Melville got his idea for Moby Dick. This is the story of the whale ship Essex, which was attacked by a whale. Moby Dick is based on a true story part where the whale attacked the ship. There was no Captain Ahab and there was no Call Me Ishmael. Anyway, this is in 1820, the Nantucket whale ship Essex, thousands of miles from home in the South Pacific, was ran by an angry sperm whale. You really got to wonder why sperm whales don't remain angry. Be a lot less whaling. The Essex sank, leaving 20 crew members at sea in their 3 small open boats for 90 days. The Titanic story of its day. The incident also provided inspiration for Melville's Moby Dick. The narrative of the wreck of the whale ship Essex by Owen Chase has long been the essential account of the Essex Dune voyage, but in 1980, a new account of the disaster was discovered, penned late in the life by Thomas Nicholson, who had been the 15-year-old cabin boy of the ship. This edition presents Nicholson's never-before-published unabridged chronicle alongside Chase's version. I know I talk too fast. I apologize. I have no idea why. I've always done that. I try to slow down, but I'm terrible at it. Also included are the more important other contemporary accounts of the incident, Melville's notes from his copy of the Chase narrative, and newly discovered primary documents about the Essex. I've read Moby Dick. Well, okay, I listened to it on book on tape while working one of my night jobs. It took all week to listen to that thing. I learned a lot about whaling. That I don't want to be a whaler ever in this century or that one. But this is the account that gave Herman Melville his idea for Moby Dick. I really got to figure this chair out. It's gonna drive me crazy. Everything drives me crazy. Okay, Bashudo. Matasu Bashu, narrative to the Deep Road Other Travel Sketches. Once again, this is a Japanese thing for Zen Buddhism. I'll get to that. That's right there. Anyway, Matasu Bashu, I'm probably screwing the poor man's name up, so don't haunt me. 1644 to 1694 was the greatest of the Japanese haiku poets. I do actually have another book on the haiku poets of him and the other 2 more famous ones. The 3 most famous ones is him and 2 other guys, and I don't remember their names, and I should. And flexibility his genius gave to the strict 17-syllable form brought haiku to the level of immaculate perfection. I like haiku poetry. I can't write it to save my life, because I'm pretty sure I'm doing it wrong. I've written some, but I'm pretty sure I've done it wrong. But if you want to know about poetry, haiku poetry, Japanese poetry, classical literature again, this Penguin Classic is definitely worth finding and reading if you like haiku poetry. If you want to learn about poetry in the Middle East, of Japan, Middle East. That's right there. No, yeah, that's that one. Anyway, that's coming up. Believe me, I will probably do a Middle East stuff if I can find enough Penguin classics to make it worth it. I know I have one though. Anyway, I keep interrupting myself. I know, people. I know I ramble. I guess because partly because I want to say a lot, and unfortunately it comes out as one long giant sentence. But later, he was a Zen Buddhist later in life. His poetry is very beautiful, very good. It's an excellent little book about the guy. Um, as I said before, Japanese literature or Japanese culture is probably it's on my top five, and probably number three on that top five list of my favorite literature writings to study and read. I live in Okinawa, Japan. I like Japan. I like everything about Japan. Okay, don't like all of its history because it was crappy and brutal and this, that, and the other. But Japan had a history before World War II. I mean, I know some people have not forgiven Japan for certain things, but yeah, people today weren't there. But I like poetry, relatively. Well, I do like poetry. I just wish mine was written better. When it comes to haiku, it's crap. I love writing it though, even though it is crap. But his is not crap. He's a genius. I was really hoping to keep this under 20 minutes. The Buddhist scriptures. I'm just going to show this one if you're interested in Buddhism or Zen Buddhism or any kind of Buddhism at all. Each of Buddhism's numerous traditional schools has its own set of scriptures. In making the selection for this volume, Dr. Khan's concentrated on the texts which reflect the essence of Buddhist teaching on that which is common rather than that which it separates. There is very little in this collection that any Buddhist or of any school would be prepared to reject. Recorded between 180 to 480, the writings here include the passages from and I'm not even going to try to say these names. I'd screw it up. But if you're interested in Buddhism, which I have studied, I like Buddhism. I don't know if I believe in it, but I like some of its tenets. I like some of its principles. I find some of their principles interesting, and this book is worth reading. Even if you don't believe one single thing about Buddhism, it's still worth reading. It's still interesting to learn about the religious, cultural, classical civilizations thinking, their spirituality. Penguin classics are cool, people. I'm sorry, there is barely any subject that they don't touch on. And you may not consider it a classic, but people who study this stuff think it's a classic. Anyway, this one is India's. This is the that's basically India. Upanishads. I have no idea. I'm sure somebody from India will correct me. Represents for the Hindu, approximately with the New Testament represents for the Christians. I will try to say it over again why I can actually understand what I just said. Represent for the Hindu approximately what the New Testament represents for the Christian. The earliest of these spiritual treatises, which vary greatly in length, which were put down in Sanskrit between 800 and 400 BC. So, around the time of the Greeks were doing things, this was happening. This selection from the 12 Upanishads, with illuminating introduction by Juan Mascaro, whose translation of the Bhagavad Gita, which I have, by the way. I do have the Gita, Bhagavad Gita. I do have that. I've read it too. It's also in the Penguin Classic. I don't have the Penguin Classic, but I do have a copy of this, which means I'm going to have to probably find it and replace it, which is fine. But Hinduism is interesting. It's not as interesting to me as Buddhism is. But, Indian culture is fascinating. It's been around for a long time. They are part of math and culture and literature. India is a fascinating country. Hinduism is a fascinating country. Another good book worth finding if you can find it. I have really got to fix this shirt. I wish I'm not boring, people. I may be a little nuts, but I'm not boring. So I don't think I'm boring. I could be boring. Am I boring? No, I think so. Okay, this is for Sufism, which is an offshoot of Islam. if I remember correctly. I'm trying to remember. I should really have looked this up before, but what I did was I just took books off where my most of my Penguin Classics are, and just took about 10 or so books to talk about. So I'm gonna try to do this as something else. So I'm probably gonna do my Roman and Greek writers next. And I have a lot of those. Probably I think more of that than I have these. Anyway, you can see that I think. Ferid Ud Din Atar, which I'm probably now screwed up. The Conference of Birds. Atar's great mythical poem opens with all the birds of the world gathered together to begin the search for an ideal king. There's your first mistake. Don't let birds be kings. Don't make them kings. What follows is a marvelous allegorical rendering of Sufism, the secretive and paradoxical form of Islam mysticism. Like the Canterbury Tales, the Conference of Birds consists of a group of stories bound together by a pilgrimage. The way of the Sufi is expounded here in tales that are often riddling and sometimes obscure, like Zen Buddhism, but full of incident and response. I wonder if this was influenced by Zen Buddhism. I'm going to have to look it up. I think it was. I think. Oh, I can easily distract myself, as you can tell. But full of incidents and suspense, laced with quick character sketches and witty vignettes of everyday life in 12th century Persia. Iran for you novices. Above all, though, the poem puts into words themes of love and the search for divine unity, and conveying these Attar has transformed beliefs in poetry in much in the same way that Milton or Dante did. I haven't read this, but I will buy every Penguin classic I find, whether I read it or not. I find them fascinating. They're like finding a treasure trove of books I never even heard of, and probably most people never heard of, and probably will never read, unfortunately. We're in for 21, 22 minutes. I really wanted to keep this under 20. Anyway, I wonder what it was like in here for that brief minute or so that I was not here. And by the way, if a ghost did sit here, tell me. Okay, something happened while I rarely ever watch my own videos. I'm not that narcissistic. I'm not that narcissistic. Anyway, but Persian literature, Sufism. Persia's an interesting country. When I say Persia, I'm not talking about Iran. I'm talking about ancient Persia. I'm talking about the Persia that Alexander the Great dealt with, and this guy came from. And another book I used to have that I lost. But anyway, another excellent Penguin classic. I'm sure it's great. There is a Persian author I read, but I don't remember if I have it or not. A lot of these books I used to have, and I got lost, and I had to redo them. But worth reading. I've done babbling. Well, I guess I should. I'm not going to skip it. I thought about skipping this one, but nah, I'm not going to. This is Chinese literature. I have volume 1 and I have volume 3. Let's see. The Story of the Stone, 1760, also known by the title The Dream of the Red Chamber, is the great novel of manners in Chinese literature. China's an odd country. I'm sorry. If I had to pick a country to really study, it would be Japan. China would be third after Korea. I mean, Japan's an interesting country, don't get me wrong, and it is. But it doesn't grip me the way Japan does, or Korea does, or other Southeast Asian countries do. I don't know why. I don't know, maybe it's cultural. Maybe the culture just doesn't grip me like the other ones do. Divided into 5 volumes, which I have 1 and 3. The Golden Days is the first. It charts the glory and decline of the illustrious I don't know how to say this in China. I'm not Chinese. As you can tell, I'm not Chinese. I'm Jewish. Family story which closely records with the fortunes of the author's own family. The 2 main characters, Bo Yu and Diayu, are set against a rich tapestry of humor, realistic detail, and delicate poetry, which accurately reflects the ritual hurly-burly of Chinese family life. But over and above the novel hangs the constant reminder that there is not a plain. God, I can't talk. I think that's partly why I don't like doing these videos so much. I talk too fast. I'm constantly interrupting myself like I'm doing now. I need to slow down. Maybe that's why I'm doing it. I'm trying to get myself to talk slower. A theme which affirms the Buddhist belief in supernatural scheme of things. I have not read this. Now, I have the other book. This is the 3rd volume. So, depending how you look at it, I guess. Anyway, as I said, It's Chinese, which is fine. I like Chinese culture up to a point. I like Japan culture because I live there. Chinese culture, for some reason, it never grips me like Japan does, or Korean does, or even Vietnam does, or the Hmong culture. There's tons of Hmong people here in Minnesota. I love the Hmong. They are fun people. They're great. I do like them. I have a book, or I did have a book in here somewhere on Hmong culture, on history. They had redheads. No, seriously, they did. Read the book. All right, 25 already. I'm going to stop abruptly because 25 was about 10 minutes longer than I actually wanted this to be. So I'm going to probably try to do another Penguin Classics review. Maybe not today, maybe next Sunday. I'm going to try to do another video today too, but later. Take it easy, stay out of trouble, behave yourselves, because you know I'm not going to. I will see you later, people.